Thanks for tuning in at Brackeys.
Hello everyone and welcome to video number 25 in Make a Game, a cool series on making a video game in Unity. So in today's video we're going to take a look at exporting our game to a standalone application. That means that we will build our game for both Windows and Mac. And in this video we'll take the Windows files and turn them into an installer, an actual setup file, and we'll have an uninstall file and all of that cool stuff. And also we are able to build the Mac application on a Windows computer here, so I'll show you how to do that also. And the process is the same on a Mac. And I'll talk a bit about what you'll typically do with the application on a Mac once you've built it. And yeah, that's basically all for the intro. I will mention, however, that I will also be doing a tutorial on exporting for the web. So if you want to have a web-based game, I'll show you how to do that too. But that's for a future video. And as always, if you have any questions, go to forum.brackeys.com. You can find many answers there. Cool. So as always, let's open up Unity, and you can see I've updated to Unity 5.2 and lots of cool stuff in this update. Most notably, we now have the Unity services integrated into the Unity editor, as you can see by the cloud symbol up here. But that's not something we're going to be using today, since it's also pro only for a lot of the stuff. But first thing we want to do here is simply select the icon that we created in the last tutorial. And we want to change the settings around here a bit, because if you remember in the last tutorial, when we built our game, just to test it out, the icon looked really blurry. And sometimes you can force Windows to update the icon and make it look sharp again by simply moving it into another folder or restarting and something like that. But I found that the settings that work best for creating a sharp icon on Windows and will work most of the time is if we actually change this back to Editor GUI and Legacy GUI and change the filter mode to trilinear. You will also want to make sure that the format is set to true color. Let's apply on that. This is something that's constantly changing, and it's kind of annoying that you can't always be sure that your icon will look great, but I find that these settings actually work the best. Cool. So now we want to go to File and then Build Settings, or Control-Shift-B. And the first thing we want to make sure is that all of the scenes we want to have in our game are added to the Scenes in Build list. And if you're using, if you're loading scenes dependent on an index, you will also want to make sure that these scenes are in correct order. So here you can see we go from the main menu to level 1 to level 2 and then to an end level scene. Cool. So down here you can see a list of all of the different platforms that Unity supports. Today we're of course going to be looking at the PC, Mac and Linux standalone, and you will want to check if there's a Unity icon to the right of the name here, and you can see on mine there is. Yours might be on one of the other platforms, and if that is the case, you want to select the PC, Mac and Linux standalone and hit switch platform. This will force the Unity editor to use settings that works with the platform selected. And it might take a little while to do. Then also you can see the target platform here. We have 3 choices. Today we're going to be ignoring Linux. And I'm sorry, Linux users. I like Linux too, but not today. And let's start out by exporting for the Mac here. So simply select the Mac OS X. Under the architecture, you can select the 32-bit, which is x86, or you can choose 64-bit, which is this one, or the universal one. Most of the time, you are going to be just fine using the 32-bit version. You can, of course, have multiple architecture versions for your program. This is completely up to you. If you don't have a clue about of what I'm saying, simply use the 32-bit one. Most modern machines today support the 64-bit, but if you want to make sure that all of your friends can play this on all of their computers, simply select 86 or 32-bit. And we want to uncheck development build here because this is going to be our final build. And then we want to go under the player settings and just make sure that all of this is correct. So the company name should be Brackeys in my instance. The product name is just going to be Make a Game. And then we have the default icon. You of course want to drag this in there if it isn't already. And down here you can see we have a bunch of different tabs for the different platforms. And this is the standalone tab. So we want to check or change these settings depending on what we want to do. Well, first off, default is full screen is fine for me. I think this game is fine in full screen. Default is native resolution. That's definitely something you want to check most of the time. And I'll allow this to run in background. Other than that, capture single screen can be ignored. I want to display the resolution dialog because we haven't actually made a resolution setting option inside of the game. So the resolution dialog is the small window that pops up before you start your game that allows you to change resolution, quality settings, and controls. So I'll just enable that. Use player log is if that's checked, Unity will actually store debug.log statement in a log file so you can view them afterwards. This is not something most of you are going to be using, but you can leave it there. Resizable window, I'm not going to check that. And Mac App Store validation. Now, let's talk about how you distribute software on Mac. Well, if you want to release your game on Mac, you're going to, of course, build this and you'll get an app file. And an app file is basically it looks like a single file, but if you right click it, you can actually view all of its contents. And it actually consists of a bunch of subfolders and subfiles. But the app file in itself is not something that you want to be distributing. Instead, you can either upload this to a website of yours, or Dropbox, or some kind of file sharing site. And in order to do that, you will need to wrap it in a disk image file. And the standard here is what is called a .dmg file. And if that's something you want to do, and that's something most programs uses on Mac, then I'll have a link in the description that you can follow that will show you how to package it in a DMG file. And that simply means that you download a file from wherever you've stored it, you open it, and it will prompt you to either run the application directly from the disk image or simply drag it into the applications folder. It's something you've probably done a bunch of time without thinking about it, but that's an option. Or you can, of course, publish it on the Mac App Store. And if that's something you want to do, and that's something a lot of people will want to do, because then you can easily give a price for your game, and you also don't need a website or any dedicated place for people to download it. You can simply use the pre-made app store. Well, then you want to check this option right here. And basically what this does is it will make sure that if your game is not downloaded from the App Store, well, then it's not going to be able to be run. So that's something you'll want to check if you have plans about publishing to the App Store. Then you have the full screen mode. This should be pretty self-explanatory. A full screen window with menu bar and dock will be fine, I think. And these two can be ignored. Visible in background, don't want that, and I think it's fine that you can run multiple instances of this. And I think our game currently should support all aspect ratios, so these are resolution screen ratios, and I think that all of them should be fine here. You can of course limit that if you want to. Then we dig into the icon, and you can override some of these if you want to, but they should be fine just using a single one. The splash image, here you can use a custom dialog banner, and that means that when we run the game, the resolution dialog will pop up, and that has the possibility for you to put in a custom image there that has something to do with your game, and this is where you would want to drag that in. We are not going to be doing that in this tutorial, and we'll just continue. Then under other settings, this is a bit more advanced and can just be completely ignored. So basically that was everything we need to set up and think about before building. So now we can go under build, and you can see that under our Make a Game project, I've made a folder called builds, and inside of this I think we should make a subfolder called Mac. And then here we can we'll make another subfolder called x86, so 32-bit. And we can simply call this Make a Game and then x86. Cool, and you can see it saves it as a .app. And what this means is that if you're viewing this on a Mac, you will see this as a file, as an application that you can run. But when we are viewing this on Windows, we simply see it as a folder with a bunch of subfolders, and this was what I was talking about. So there are a bunch of stuff inside of all of these. Cool. So now that we have that done, the process is exactly the same for 62-bit or 64-bit, and you should be able to simply export for other Mac versions there. Again, either upload it to the App Store or check out the guide in the description on wrapping this in a disk image, so you can easily upload it to any file sharing site of your choice. Next up is Windows. Cool. So let's go ahead and change the target platform here to Windows. And again, you can either select 32-bit, which is 86, or 64-bit, which is this one down here. And for now, I'm simply going to export to 32-bit because then our program is going to be supported by all computers. You can, of course, have two download links on your site, one for 32 and one for 64. Then we want to go and hit, and again, we can go under the player settings here and just check that everything is as we want it to be. And this is just something you should double check here. And then we can go ahead and hit build. And we can go under builds, create a new folder called Windows, create a new subfolder called 86. And then name this Make a Game x86. And it's going to go ahead and build this. And once it's built, it's going to open up here. And you can see that our icon is now looking much sharper than it did before. Even though we are making this huge, you can see it's very, very sharp. Cool. So what we can do now is we can go ahead and make this into an installer. You can of course create a 64-bit version, but we'll just go ahead and make an installer out of this. So now we can actually close down Unity. I'll simply minimize Unity here. And what we can do is we can use a program called inno setup. So INNO setup. And if you don't have this already, we can go on the web here and search for inno setup here. And this is a very good program actually, and it's also free for creating installers of a bunch of files. And it's fairly simple to use, and it offers a lot of customization. You can actually make your own scripts and edit these in order to configure exactly how you want your installer to look, and what text you want, and how you want it to compress your files. You can do so much stuff with this. But we are going to take the fairly simple route, and simply download the Inno setup here, and then go under stable release and download the exe file here. So simply hit random site, then you'll get the executable, and simply run that and install it once it's downloaded. Then we can go down here and run Inno setup compiler, and it's going to prompt you to either open an existing script file, or we can create an empty script file, or create a new script file using the script wizard. So basically, Inno setup uses these scripts that will compile your program into a setup file. And they've made this useful wizard if we don't want to make everything by hand. So now we can simply hit next, and we can give our application a name, and this is going to be make a game, and this is version 1.0 from Brackeys, and you can also input a website here, and I'm simply going to do www.brackeys.com. Then hit next, and I simply want these to be installed in the program files folder. Under the application folder name, we're going to select make a game, and we are going to allow other users to change the application folder if they want to. Then let's hit next. And now we want to basically find the files on our system that we want the installer to install. So let's hit browse here, and let's find on our system the executable that we just built. So mine is under Dropbox, and then make a game, builds, Windows 86, and there it is. So simply select that. And now this is maybe a bit funky, but you are going to have to create another folder to store this data folder in. Because what we are going to, right now we've only associated the exe file. We also want to associate the data folder. But when we add that in here, it actually doesn't include the folder itself. It just extracts all of these files at the same level as the make a game file. And therefore, we need to create a folder to wrap this in. So we'll simply copy the name here and then create a folder. And we'll simply call this data. And then we'll drag the make a game 86 data into this data folder and rename this to exactly the same. So now when we open this, we see another folder with the same name, and inside of that is all of our data. So you can see what the hierarchy looks like up here. So what we then do is in here, we say that we want the user to start the application after setup has finished if he wants to. And then we hit add folder down here. We navigate to the place where we've stored this. So again, this is for me under Dropbox. Then make a game and builds, Windows 86. And then we want to select the parent folder here. It's very important that you don't select the subfolder, but the parent folder. Because then when this is extracted, this folder is what is going to be lying alongside our executable. So simply select that and hit yes to this because we want to include all subfolders. And now we hit next. And yeah, fine, we'll make a start menu folder called make a game. And we'll allow the user to change this folder name, to disable the creation of that, create an uninstall icon in that folder. And we also want to allow the user to create a desktop icon. You can change these settings like you want to. Then we have the possibility to attach a license file or some information files shown before and after installation. So if you want to make some custom text saying thank you for downloading, and you can check out our GitHub page here, and this was made using Brackeys tutorials and then a link, feel free to do that. But just know that the license files or the files that you attach here need to be in either .text or .rtf format, and they are of course completely optional. So I'm just going to hit next. Then you can select what languages you want this installer to include. And I'm simply going to use English here, but you can use select all and just allow that to automatically translate itself. Then hit next here, and now we want to choose the folder where we want our setup file to be compiled to. So let's go under browse here, and I'm gonna go under find our Dropbox folder here. The make a game folder should be here, there, and go under builds, Windows, and actually instead of builds Windows, and let's make a new folder here and call this installer. Okay, and let's rename this to make a game setup, and then we'll do 86. And we can maybe wrap that in parentheses. Cool. And then you can choose a custom setup icon file. I think we're just going to use the default one, and set a password if that's something you want to do. I'm just going to hit next and finish. And you can see that Inno Setup Compiler now creates this cool looking scripts with all of our settings. You can see that our, sorry about that. You can see that our app name is Make a Game, our app version is 1.0. It has references to all of the files that we're going to be needing, and that's super cool. It's basically done all of this for us. And the cool thing about the way that it sets it up here is if we've made a small mistake along the way, we can simply go into the script and edit it by hand. We don't need to go through the entire process again. So now we would like to compile the script, so simply hit yes to this, and I don't think we want to save the script anywhere. You can do that. Actually, let's just save this. So under Windows and then installer, we can simply save this as make a game installer compilation, or compiler, installer, compile installer script. We could do something like that. So then you have it, and you can always open it and make a small change and then compile or create the setup file again. So let's hit save on that, and it's going to start compiling. And if we go under builds, Windows, installer, you can see that we now have the script here, which you can open up and change. That's this script here. And we also have the exe, we have the executable setup file. And this is what you would then upload to a web server or to Mediafire and share with your friends. Because if we run this now, simply double click that, give it permission. You can see we get this cool looking installer. Welcome to the Make a Game setup wizard. And this will install Make a Game version 1.0 on your computer. You can see that it creates all of this text for us. We have the title here. We can go next. You can choose a custom place to install your game. Go next again here, and that's the start menu folder. And we can not create that or create that, and then hit next. And we want to also create a desktop icon. Next again, and install. And it's going to quickly install all of the stuff. And now we can launch the Make a Game immediately here. I'm just going to uncheck that to show you that it's now on the desktop here as a shortcut. It's also in the start menu here under recently added. And if we go and open the file location, you can see that our Make a Game executable is here, our data is here. There's also an uninstall.exe. So if you want to uninstall this program, you can simply run this. And now we can simply double click Make a Game to open it up. And you can see we have our display dialog here, our resolution dialog with the banner that you've set. If you have set any banner, I don't think it's necessary. This is just a formality kind of, but you can of course put something cool looking there. And now we can hit play and enjoy our game as installed by in our system. So we can now hit play game here and play through. So it's actually that easy. So that's basically all I wanted to cover in this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'm definitely looking forward to showing how you can export your game to a web-based platform as well. So again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.